Hello and welcome back to Let's Drone Out. Tonight we are joined by everyone's favourite Curry Kitten.
Hello.
The man that should only have a moustache, Stephen.
Hello. Leave it out.
My darling wife, Tony.
Bonjour.
From across the pond, the other side of the world, where if you drilled a hole straight through the earth, we've got Paul from BMSWEB.
Hey, hello guys.
And we have got BMS Thomas.
G'day.
So how are you doing, guys? We have not had you on for years, and for that whole time, there's been like the end of the world. We've had a plague. Now got a war. I don't even think you can fly over Russia to get to us. You're gonna have to go the other way around.
Yes. So we're looking at flight radar, and there's like this big hole in the sky where aircraft just fly all the way around it. It's amazing, isn't it?
Oh
Crazy.
man, it sucks.
I just think the reality of these last couple of years has been mind blowing. Like it's
It's they turned on that kaleidoscope
No.
thing, didn't they, in Switzerland, the hydroscope or whatever it's called.
Oh,
They turned
you
that
reckon
on.
that-
The
the
Hadron
reality
Collider. The kaleidoscope. I like that. it's like Tony.
Tony,
Look
I'm
at the
glad that all your
particles.
opinions are based on raw facts, not
They turned that on and
misinterpretations.
everything changed. I'm telling you, it's that. Our reality has changed because they switched
Tin-
that thing.
Tinfoil hat stickers. Tinfoil hat. Tony is a twat. Tony is a cuck. We
these
love
all three?
Tony.
Well, that one would be the
Tony
most
is a
popular.
cockwomble.
Oh, I've got that one.
Coco hates Tony.
That's lies.
Tony smells.
Oh, I do
Tony is
feel
my
quite nice.
wife.
That's lies.
Tony is a bell end.
True.
Flat Earth Tony.
True.
Tony loves Danny.
Not true.
All available. All still available.
God.
There's only a few dog shit bins, but they're all available. So I have noticed you guys on Instagram, and I got reminded that you guys exist.
Yeah.
Thomas has won absolutely every race
Everything.
known to man. They've changed DHL to your name. Is that correct? People don't even show up. I mean, the stick movement is unreal. Just full deflection, sideways round gate posts and all sorts. It's been incredible.
We're still all watching.
Thank you so much.
I always
This
like
is
the fact
vacuum.
that the quad builds are very neat as well. They're always very, just like loads of racing quads are always bashed up and stuff. When I see pictures of your ones, and you keep doing the little pose, sort of ready to go, don't you? They always look very sleek and lovely.
He don't crash, that's why.
Yeah, he just flies around.
Oh, they're fine.
I wish I didn't crash. I crashed a bit yesterday, but we made it through okay.
Thomas is a a very little bit, isn't it, Tom? You probably won't admit to that, will you?
That's too much.
Like we tried a thing. Was it the last video we released? The one on the Foxeer quad, was it? I thought it was the last video we put out. No, there's another video put out on Betaflight and the actual tune for it. But we had this idea where Thomas was doing a build video on this Foxeer quad, and we did that. And we did a test flight with it, and I suggested that he actually race it. And I thought it's going to be really good as far as the video goes, because what I envisaged happening was Thomas would go out with this race quad and actually race it at a proper race meet, and he would struggle with it, and it was going to make for a more interesting video in that, you know what I mean? He loses a few heats and eventually comes back and wins, you know what I mean? Just something different. He raced it 2 weekends ago. We made the video, but you pretty much won all the heats, did you, Tom?
I mean, I got there eventually, but
I expected more of a story to it, you know what I mean? Adapting to a new quad and the struggles with it and all that sort of stuff, and it didn't really happen.
Right,
Still struggles.
Next
You
time,
should-
Thomas, it needs to be done with a cine quad, cine whoop.
That'd be hectic. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I think what you should do is I'm going to butcher his name, but do you remember Kenichi? Is it Tsunara? You know, the guy who invented drifting, and Thomas should be racing with like rubber gloves, big thick welding gloves on, and like
Yeah.
you know, like he's got to hold the controller like the other way round, and he's got to race like that.
Oh my gosh, dude! There's a heli pilot, I believe, from Dubai, and literally, you look at his Instagram videos. He's like relaxing, like just chilling, like he's on a sofa or something, just using the controller or whatever, just flying this 3D heli, making it do all kinds of crazy 3D heli madness. And it's actually so sick. I want to be able to do that one day. And just literally doesn't matter where.
Do you see Min Chan's line of sight stuff round at Bardwell's house? He was just doing a little bit of light line of sight flying on his racing quad.
I haven't seen that video, but I did build a line of sight quad back in 2018. And when we... Oh, okay. When I was at DR1, I got Minchan to actually fly my line of sight quad. Because my line of sight's like, okay, it's enough to test quads and make sure they work, but it's not like actual aerobatics that are pretty. So, but then Minchan did his Minchan thing, and it was pretty sick. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's cool. I've seen him doing it above a crowd before. That was quite mad. Yeah, he flew in it was like in a theatre or something. He was doing it. I've seen it. Definitely was him flying above quite a lot of people.
Yeah,
obviously not this guy. Maybe
it's like it's okay. I'm 20 mistakes high. It's fine.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, for him. Maybe your dad should build like a jig to hang you by your feet. That might be quite good.
Well, I think other mitts, cine quad, or hanging upside down.
Or perhaps we could make a competition. Can you build a quad that Thomas can't win with? It has to be able to fly, but that's it. Yeah, it's like we can break out the old 3S ZMR 250s with the GM Fan 5030s that are super flexible. See what you can do with that.
Are you still running the JS1?
Yes, I am. So that's the frame that we designed. God, that was back in 2019. Did we do a show with you guys in 2019?
I don't know.
I think 2018 might have been the last time. But yeah, we designed that. Still racing it now. We made small updates throughout the course of its life, but nothing really big enough to warrant like a new name or anything like that. It's all just been, small radius changes, improving the tolerances of some of the gaps in parts. So like the roll cages now go on better than they used to. It's been a lot of little changes, but otherwise, same frame.
Jeez, man, that is mad. Mind you, I found out that Foxy have released some ESCs that 4-in-1 that are like $140.
Yeah, chip shortage has been tough. Like everything. I mean, I guess for me, I'm obviously being a sponsored pilot. I don't tend to normally focus on the prices of things. It's just sort of this is okay. Well, let's get this to work how we want or whatever. But just lately, especially because we do some product development now and we work with these companies, like in a product development sense, actually seeing how the prices change, where even like with Radio Master, where their radios were before COVID versus afterwards in price, and hearing them having issues trying to find the right chips and, being back ordered for months and months and months, where they've got everything to build this radio, but just like a few of those chips that, just everyone wants and they can't do anything about it. And then now as it goes on, it's like material shortages and this and that. So it's a crazy world we live in at the moment, that's for sure.
You know things are serious when like Intel literally build a plant in Dubai and then just have like manufacturing concrete for themselves and stuff like that. Like, you just think, like you literally have to do everything yourself in order to ensure your supply chain. So
yeah, I think especially for a company like Intel, where there's just going to be such a huge demand and it's only going to be growing, So for them, it's like basically a must just to keep up with the sort of the flow of products and everyone wanting their stuff and needing it. So especially I think after COVID, a lot of things now are more online. Like the amount of people that are comfortable with computers and just sort of integrating them into their daily lives is way higher, I think, than it was even a couple of years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what's your setup? Are you still running the T motors? Are you still running 6S?
Yeah, so what we have, so we have the JS1 frame.
Yep.
I'm using an orange pod now for the real racing, which is fun. But the BMS Raptor V2s, so they're an updated version of the BMS Raptor V1 motors. Just a little bit lighter, a little bit higher response. We changed some of the processes and how we manufacture things, so we've got a bit more efficiency there. For the fly stack, I'm using Foxia fly controllers. The what's it called? F722 Mini Pro, and then also the Mini on some. But I'm planning on switching them all to the Pro because the Pro's got more features. And then ESCs is the Foxia Reaper 45 or the Hobbywing 40 amps. And then frame, sorry, not frame, we've done it. Like the video system, we're rocking TBS Unify Pro 32s, TBS Unify Pro UFLs at the moment, but then I also have the SMA pigtails if I want to switch to that. And then Tracer or Crossfire, depending on where I'm flying. If it's like in the middle of a city race, then Crossfire. If it's sort of normal environment, then I'll go to Tracer for the lower refresh rate and yeah, better link for control. And then for camera, Foxia Predator V4s and V5s. So I've just got a bit of a jump on them. You can actually get them. Yeah, well, I haven't actually done an order with them in ages, to be honest. So I think I tend to mainly break things in racing. And so because there hasn't been much racing in the last couple of years, only just started really for us this year, I haven't really been breaking much. So been flying a fair bit, but not really destroying gear. So a lot of the stuff that I have.
Not been tempted to play with HD0 yet then?
We had an old shark bite system that we got from. Do you guys know Strepto?
No, I don't.
Okay. So back in the day, he was the guy that used to travel around with Chad Nowak.
Chad's mate.
Yeah. So he was in Melbourne. This is like early. I think it was 2021 or 2020. I have no idea anymore. That whole like 2-year gap is like a big blur.
Yep.
But somewhere in there, he came past. He dropped off a HD0 system, not HD0, Sharkbite system. So we've worked on that a bit. Like I've got a JS1 that runs the DJI HD and one that runs the HD0 or the Sharkbite for me to just like test it and so to just make sure I've got everything working.
The Sharkbite cameras were kind of sketch compared to what they have now.
Yeah, so I've got to update it and try new parts because I also want to build a frame that can run it properly. So with the JS1, we just got this sort of makeshift pod that's able to house everything for testing, but it's not very durable. It's literally just sort of like a shell to put the gear in and get data. So sometime.
So what style is the JS1? I haven't seen that frame myself.
Can I? Do you want me to grab it now?
Yeah, grab one. Yeah, absolutely.
Give me a sec.
And then we just describe it audibly. I can post a link to it.
Just going to get a drink, lads.
It's a roughly cruciform piece of carbon fibre.
Very skinny arms, really sort of like poddy and stuff. It's quite.
Here's the man. And he's got a thing.
Yes. So this is.
Describe it. Audio podcast.
Okay, so what do we have? We have what is, in my opinion, the ultimate race frame design. So it is designed by me, fully. So I'm quite biased. But yeah, it fits my needs exactly how I want. It uses a roll cage design.
So describe the roll cage design for our audio listeners. How does that work out?
Basically what we've got is some flat pieces of carbon that are arranged in a vertical fashion, connected to the rest of the chassis through some standoffs.
So instead of just having like camera plates, they effectively go all the way front to back.
Correct, yeah, and they protect all the equipment from front-on impacts. So, except for the camera, everything else is recessed into the roll cage. So front-on impacts, you have really good protection, right up to around 200 k's an hour. Obviously, it depends what you hit. If you hit metal or concrete, it's going to be a different story. But for things like gates and flags, usually it works out okay. Side-on impacts, we protect that with the pod. It can't take as much of an impact as the front-on, but this is mainly for your mid-air collisions and just sort of light taps.
Keeps the dirt
Is it
out.
3D printed?
Yeah, these are currently 3D printed. So we're looking at switching to vacuum-formed polycarb, but we haven't really jumped on that yet because there's no racing at the moment, and we want to release that when the racing's more common, and we know that, you know, getting a mold made up for it and whatever is going to be sort of worth it, because the gear's still changing. There's new stuff coming out. I've been developing a lot of stuff with other companies that we haven't released yet on purpose, because we don't want to release it before the racing starts and it can get copied, etc. So I'm sure the other companies too that are in the FPV industry have their own little tricks that they haven't released yet. So,
and you've got a pretty aggressive stack height there as well, right? Which is stopping some of the digital solutions going in, I guess.
Yeah, correct. So this is able to carry some 30x30 stacks just. So for the first year of racing back in 2019, I was running the Foxia F722 dual flight controller and the T-Motor F55 amp 30x30 ESC. So you can just fit 30x30 in this if you have to, and that did end up paying off for me, where I could use this essentially a year early from me finding a 2020 stack that I liked. But then, yeah, it's really optimized for 20x20, and it's also built specifically to house TBS electronics. So your receiver and video transmitter, I mean, you'll probably find other receivers that fit pretty well, but video transmitters, you basically just want to go with the Pro 32 or just the Pro Nano. You don't really want to go with anything else, because...
Have you been tempted by any of these?
Sorry, I was just going to say,
have you been tempted by any of the combined VTX and RX solutions like the 69?
Yeah, I've played with some packaging recently of trying to work out how I would build a new quad. I've actually have started developments on a new frame. I'm not sure when we'll actually end up releasing, because this is actually still way too quick for me. But I want to have something eventually to move to, in the event that one day on the right track or in the right scenario I want a bit more, whether it's to make up for my lack of skill or, you know, whatever scenario might be. So even a few times back in 2019, I had to utilize the top speed of this thing to sort of claw my way back on certain events. So having more ability is always good. So even though I'm sort of still got a long way to go before I'm anywhere near the limit of this, I do wish to have something to jump to ready, in the motors, in the props, in the frame, just everywhere. So we're working on new things. Some of it's worked, some of it hasn't. It's sort of hard at the moment because there's a lot of compromises that you make for more performance, and I don't really want to compromise. So I just have to work out new things that work and don't compromise. So it's been a bit of a journey. But the good thing is this year I do have a dedicated R&D budget. So I can actually spend money to learn and accumulate knowledge and test things myself. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we find some good things eventually and we can put it together in the form of a new frame or an upgraded JS1.
And it cool. Looks like the camera tilt's, what, about 45 degrees on that? Quite
correct. I like 45. So with the current lenses, their field of views are pretty insane. So for me, 45, I can stay leaned over quite a lot, but still see like the horizon pretty comfortably. So for some of the 3D elements, like your towers and that, it can get a bit challenging at full stick, but I think I just need to learn how to fly around it for now. I'm not really too concerned about that yet. So, and if I wanted to, I can always up the tilt more, but 45 so far has been really comfortable.
Not being tempted to just have 4 rocket motors and you just light them instantaneously and just go.
I want to try it for a video one day. I think it'd make for a really enjoyable video. But I'm not sure how practical it'd be for real racing. So yeah. It's been good though. This thing, it's been
loss vectoring.
It's done its job. You can't really see this if you're listening to it. You can't see this, but The JS one's pretty thin. So it's basically everything's built to have just enough to finish a race. So it's got what I call race durability, which is basically enough that, if I did send this into the ground in the middle of a race, I should be able to get back up and finish. But you will noodle arms and things. So it is really more on the performance end than the durability side. But it gets the job done. So it protects the electronics. There have been a lot of occasions where you've had mid-airs, ended up, in a situation where you should have been out of the race, but it's held itself together long enough to finish and get the job done. And then
carbon.
What are the arms? About 5 mil carbon?
5 mil thick, yeah. And then the actual shape tapers the whole way through. So depending on where you are in the geometry, it's always a little bit different. So just to try and maximize,
get the clean air through that.
Yeah, just performance and strength, as much strength as we can, and stiffness. So in this case, I think we were more limited by stiffness than strength for my use case. So just trying to, I'll go ahead. Yeah.
Are you still getting faster then? You're kind of implying earlier that you're still not able to push the frame to its limits. Do you think that another season you're going to be at the limits of that frame and you'll have to go back to the drawing board, or where do you stand on that?
I feel like by next year I could be at 80% of its ability. I feel like that'd be probably fair. It's like, it depends on what elements there are. There's a lot of tracks even now. There's a track the other day where I just throttle limited to 65%. So I was just like, this is too much to handle. I'm going to drop this down. I just feel like having fun today. So a lot of the time I'll force myself to fly on full power just to have it as a backup in a real race. So just, get used to what the stick feels like, even if I'm not actually using the full ability, just what the travel feels like. But that day I was just like, nah, I'm too tired. I just want to enjoy this day. So I just throttle limited the thing right down to sort of a comfortable pace. And I'm just like, yeah, this is good. So because then you get all the handling characteristics and, pardon?
What KV are the motors that you're running?
2000 KV. Yeah, and they're a 2306.5 stator. So pretty beefy. But the props I run, at least compared to what sort of the standard is at the moment, they're a bit on the heavier side. So we do need the torques to get these props to spin up to optimal RPMs and perform their best.
Which you do.
I was going to ask, I may be imagining this, and it's probably happened before COVID, which means it's all a blur. But I thought at some point you were out testing the DJI FPV system and taking it around the track, and then compared what you did with analog, and analog was still faster. But I just wondered if you went back and you've done any more with it, or do you ever think it's going to be raceable compared to analog?
Is this the FPV combo or the FPV just the video transmitting?
Just the FPV point of view.
I think it's still a long way off at the moment. If we're talking purely performance, right? There's still a lot of other things that need to be sorted out. That being said, everyone's doing updates to it, right? So you don't really know. I think as long as it keeps getting support, it can sort of go either way. Yeah, so I'm not really diving into it myself. Like, I'm just sort of updating as I go every few months and retesting everything to keep up to date. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. The HD0 stuff's looking actually pretty promising. So from everyone I've spoken to about it, it sounds like that guy's doing a lot of work to actually get this done. It's pretty hectic for a one-man operation.
Yeah, there was a video that Madstech over here in the UK put out just a couple of days ago where they spent a long time, like over an hour, talking Mads and Carl Zhao, the founder of HD0, and they went into a lot of the slow growth that he's been doing and how he went from Sharkbite to HD0. And it sounds like the guy is actually re-implementing a lot of the chips to get the size down, to get the efficiency up, and to get the cost down as well. So it sounds very promising, and I imagine it's not going to be the last we hear from HD0. He made it a comment that he's very keen to get 90 FPS for racers, and he's very keen to get a 1080p option for freestylers and other people as well. So it sounds interesting.
90 FPS would be just amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, even at the weight that the board is at the moment, that'd be the kind of thing that would probably bring a lot of people over. So
interesting factoid from that: Carl Zhao was actually the guy who wrote the screen driver chips in a lot of these OLED goggles. The screen driver for the Sky Zones and for the HDOs were apparently created by Carl, and he created the chipsets to run car backup cameras about 15 years ago or something.
Wow,
that is really interesting.
The guy's had a varied life around video. Yeah.
Well, I just sent him a friend request this morning, I think it was, or last night, to have a chat with him about all the stuff that he's actually doing. Sort of keen to know and get a head around it and try and start to play catch up with what they've actually been up to.
We're being pretty cautious with it. So I think it's probably, like, I say over the last couple of weeks, we sort of decided we're going to look into it more and have a proper serious analysis of it and where it's going, and even for us, what things we might want to develop around it. So even maybe sooner rather than later. So we're gonna still feel it out. But I think HDC is probably the closest at the moment.
I think the good thing is he's actually looking at all the elements, not just HD. Because a lot of people sort of think about it and just say, oh, HD, you know what I mean? Well, it goes beyond that. Frame rate is a really important one, but like you just brought up, that's a critical one. I look at like, I'm obviously nowhere near Thomas's skill level, but I look at his video and I realize because he's flying faster, around some elements, he might do element 1 and element 2, he might only get, like, for argument's sake, 10 frames to work with. Whereas when I do it, I've got like 15 frames to work with. And when I look at his DVR, I think, well, I haven't got enough information to make that decision. You know what I mean? So I think having the higher frame rate is critical. Obviously, that's going to make for even faster and better flying. Reducing the size of the device and weight. Well, then the argument of, well, I don't want to go HD because it's heavier is out the door. You know what I mean? So in my opinion, he's ticking off all the critical issues, not just saying HD is better. And just purely from a resolution point of view and saying HD means you can see more. And that's not always the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the fact that he's actually ticking off all those little critical areas, I think, is what's going to make the massive difference.
Yeah, I wish the guy good luck, and he doesn't want to go and make hardware. That's one point he kept ramming home. He wants other people to go make it. He's got Foxeer on board now. You say you're a Foxeer team, so you might be able to hit up Foxeer for some of that.
Yeah, that'd be really good, because Foxeer sort of changed their tune over the last couple of years, would you say, Tom?
It feels like a couple of years, but it was actually before that. It was mid 2018.
Yeah.
They started doing really good
stuff. The quality started improving, and they tried to actually make better gear. Not saying that gear wasn't great back then, but it's actually more consistently better.
Yeah, they started pushing themselves. There was no one else pushing them. They were actually doing things purely because they wanted to. And a lot of the stuff that they've been releasing over the last few years has been purely out of their own love for the hobby.
Or their initiative, or whatever the motivation.
Yeah, not necessarily. Like
you're sort of pushing people to actually produce better quality stuff. Whereas all of a sudden they're actually doing that too without us initiating it. And all of a sudden you might get a component to test and say, we've changed this, this, and this. This should actually improve X, Y, Z. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that's really good, you know what I mean? Rather than just putting out a product. So hopefully with the fact that they're taking on this HD0 stuff will be positive for the industry and get other people on board.
Someone's got to step first.
Yes, exactly. And that's what it was not even to whether you like Elon Musk or not, whether you think he's a nutcase or he's brilliant or whatever the case may be. The fact that he sort of pushed for electric cars and everyone thought was a stupid idea at the time. And he got so much, I suppose, criticism from literally everyone. But now look at all the big manufacturers that are coming out with electric cars. I don't think if that hadn't occurred, I don't think we would have got the uptake of electric cars. Whether electric, I'm not arguing whether they're good or bad or whatever, but it's still, I mean, it took that one company sort of to push it. And now we've got Toyota and everyone else jumping on board.
Yeah, I mean, if you rewind that even further, right, petrol engine cars looked like a big gamble back at the early 1900s, where the sensible choice was to run steam. How many people out there rocking a steam car these days?
Exactly. Yeah. So I think
I'm sure there's one or two.
Yeah, probably. Maybe an ocean ship.
Definitely in England.
Yeah.
The old steam Land Rover.
So you mentioned you're running a 2306. That's not a racer size, or 2306.5, right? I always hear about the racers with the 22s.
Yeah, 22s I think have always been more popular. Like back deep into 2016, they were the more popular choice. Honestly, just in our testing, this just worked out to be the best result for us. Obviously, too, each company, even though like got a stator size and a KV, they can sort of mean very different things for each company. Well, KV I think is usually pretty consistent, but stator sizes, depending on what company you go to, you almost need to just compare within their tree. Not really this one to that company's one. So
right.
in our
testing, you're saying you don't necessarily believe that a 23mm stator in one company is equivalent to a 23mm stator in another company.
Yeah, correct. Stator design, the materials used in the stator, it all makes a difference. So there's a lot of stuff that we've been playing with where you'll have two motors that if you measure them, they're both a 2306. But you put them on the racetrack and they perform very differently. They feel very different. So it's all about how the stators are designed, the materials you use, the processes you use to create them. Even like probably a big one that we didn't expect with these, because these were always just going to be a lighter, more durable V1. That was the original plan. Because we're winding to such a high kV, at least for 6L, and we're also using a silver core winding, there was a fairly high failure rate by T-motor standards in the production, right? So there might be that they had to originally was like a 90 something, like 96, 95% success rate or something. So it's like 5% of the motors that had to get scrapped because the actual winding material wasn't good, right? So when they do their testing, they're like, okay, these ones are cut out.
Shorting out or snapping the winding or?
Just not good quality material. The process that they were using to make it wasn't actually consistent. It had produced.
And when they do the KV test might have been outside of their min max.
Yeah, or high resistance, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So this time around for the B2s, they worked on a new process to get more consistency. That's all they were after. We wanted a more consistent production. We wanted a higher rate of success with what product we produce. Inadvertently, with the way that they changed their processes, we got an actual efficiency increase just on the winding alone. It's got better thermal conductivity. The resistance doesn't go up as much when the motor gets hot. And so in trying to improve the process so we have a lower failure rate in the factory, we actually just ended up with a more efficient, cooler, just overall better winding. And well, they look just about the same as the old ones as far as the core goes. You can see the colors a bit darker, it's a bit higher copper content, but the actual performance is way increased.
So are you cooking motors a fair bit, like flying in high ambient temperatures, high average throttle?
No. Like,
thanks for your donation. Sorry to interrupt. Thanks for your donation, Numbskull.
I'm not used to
Jack's being the numbskull at the moment.
Jack has been unable to buy fireworks recently, so we've improvised, and Jack's come up with this fantastic little fire device.
You.
It's an epic fire show, that's for sure.
I tell you what, that really does warm the glass up.
Oh, you got another one then.
Thanks, Clive. Oh, you want another one?
You could put.
You pour the juice back in.
Oh God.
The special fire juice.
Is there a fire extinguisher to hand?
Always.
Oh God.
His desk's built on fire extinguishers.
And congratulations to Lurgy, who is having a baby.
Oh, well done, Lurgy. I've never.
Celebration fire.
I'm not sure Jack actually burned it all out of the glass then. Looked like he had to put it out for safety reasons.
Starting to get dangerous in Jack's
classic flat. burning titties. That's the classic move.
Right, no more donations. He's going to literally catch fire.
Fire.
Congratulations, Lurg.
Congratulations.
Okay. I think we were talking about motors.
So we're talking about
burning
motors
out.
and heat,
Yes.
and from heat we transition into burning things. But back to motors.
Right. Okay. So back to So a lot of those motors that would have failed, they get taken out when Team Motor does their testing, right? Oh, bless you.
Sorry, I thought I hit the mute then, but I missed.
No, good. So a lot of those get taken out. That being said, on the V1s, the most common way that they would die is in racing. You obviously accumulate damage, right? You crash into things, things move out of shape, and then once they get to a point where things were out of tolerance enough, or the bearings were sort of a bit rattly in that, then there would be enough resistance in the motor that it would start to cook if you sent it, right? So a lot of the time, you'd sort of start to notice the enamel starting to get a bit crispy, and then usually I'd actually just give those motors to Dad for his spec quad, because that would, like, at that point with the throttle limit and everything, they actually never get to the point where they get hot enough to have any issues. But in the proper heat of a race, like, if you put enough wear on the motor and you didn't really care for it, keep it clean or whatever, or if it just got to the point where it was too bent out of shape, yeah, it would overheat usually, rather than just end up sort of too banged up to work. But then it was the being banged up that made it overheat in the first place.
Yeah.
That being said, though, the V2s are way more tolerant. Like, you
Right.
can put them through significantly more things that you shouldn't do to a motor, and they don't tend to cook. Even, like, I think a big reason for that too is that we actually were able to improve the raw strength of the motor to begin with. Around the base of the motor, we increased the strength by about 40%, and we added like
That's a lot.
It was like 0.3 of a gram of material, but just in the right spot. So, and we saved weight out in other areas, which is what allowed us to do that. We were able to save a lot of weight and then go, we've got all these savings. Can we add any back in that'll net a big gain? And in that case, it was sort of a no-brainer. You're adding a touch of material, but the durability went up significantly. And it was like, well, okay, let's just go with that. And it's been really good. We've got one of the guys in the US that's been running them. That was sponsored by Team Motor recently. And he's been in shock with how durable they've been. Which for me, it's what I consider as race durability. But for him, it's been a big step up, I guess. So it's been good hearing that and sort of knowing that it's been working, especially on side-on impacts where, like, if you sort of flatten out for something and you happen to impact the motor on the side, which is like the worst case scenario, he's been able to get away with some of those crashes that previously you couldn't. Obviously, you hit anything hard enough, you're going to break something. But it's sort of the world of racing is mitigating risk as much as possible and trying to find the right balance of redundancy to straight out performance.
And you're a 2-bolt motor kind of guy, aren't you? And you're not using aluminium.
Yes. So 2 bolts, and then, but I'm still supporting all 4 with the.
So full base support.
Yeah, full base support, and that just stops the motor from getting like levered and broken off. So yeah, that's sort of my balance there, where I save a bit of weight with just using the 2 bolts, but at the same time, the whole base is still supported, so it can't like leverage up and twist and damage the base. Because we are still working with aluminium, and aluminium's still soft.
Yeah. I've got a really weird question to ask you guys. Do you remember when you guys got to hang out with the army? Did they let you have a go of their little mini helicopter quad?
Yes.
No way.
It was mind blowing. Can I share the first encounter with that little quad, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'd seen that little quad before, but not fly, and we had this was back in probably 2019, I think it was.
18.
We had the what was it called? MIDRT. What was it? Military International Drone Racing
Tournament.
Yeah, that's right. And the event had actually finished, and I was having a chat with a few people. It was pretty quiet. There was no quads flying, and Thomas was like tapping my shoulder, like, Dad, you know what I mean? I'm like, what? You know what I mean? He goes, look up, and this thing was probably flying. How far would you say, Tom? Probably
5 meters.
20 meters away.
No,
10
I was
meters
closer
away.
than that.
10 meters.
Really close.
Okay, so say about 10 meters away, but you couldn't actually hear it at all. And it was a realization that this little thing that looks like a toy could be flying really near you and you wouldn't even know.
Like
and then,
that?
yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And then, was it earlier this year or late last year when they were actually at our flying field? They actually let us have a fly with it. And
is it the same controls or is it different?
It's not flying a traditional drone. It's more like, would you say a Mavic, Tom?
It's sort of like a Mavic, but you've got solid buttons that you're using to interface with it. There's no touchscreen.
Yeah.
So
And you
it's
can
these
sort of look
solid
at
buttons. You set your airspeed and your turning rate, and then you can like unclick it or re-click it. And they can do like waypointing and everything.
So 25-minute flight time on it. It's really, really quiet. You can do thermal imaging and all that sort of stuff. Like we had our timing system.
No way.
And you could fly over it, like over the track, and you'd see this like a little bit of a orange glow where the timing system was at the start gate. Or if you flew anywhere near the cars, you could actually see those. If there was kangaroos in the bushes, you would see their thermal heat signature.
Yeah. Well, even last time we got back from lunch, and you could see the tires in the car were warmer than the other tires.
Yeah, so one car had warmer tires than the other cars. So even though it looks like a little toy, it's really mind-blowing what this thing can do. Frame rate of the video is really like, what would you say, 5 frames per second?
It's like variable.
It's not
like
great,
5
you know
to
what I mean?
15.
But if you use it for reconnaissance and things like along those lines, it's really, really an impressive little toy. I'd love to have one. Really want one. But I'm probably $60,000 short.
Because I remember seeing some of the video from it, because they got that big sort of ruggedized control thing.
Yes.
And it kind of, because it doesn't stabilize, but the video was sort of rotating. So you always had the sort of horizon was straight and the video was just rotating around it. That was really clever stuff in there.
Even the fact that it's got the cameras that could do, I can't remember what the 4 or 5 modes is, but you've also got a little tiny device. Forget all what the cameras can do. It can fly for like 25 minutes. And that's just insane. Like this little tiny thing can fly for 25 minutes. It's just mind blowing.
Oh, they got NASA super batteries, haven't they?
They got secret batteries which they haven't.
This thing was actually retired in 2016 or 2017.
Yeah, but their technology is like
different versions.
Insane.
20 years ahead of ours. We're like, we're bashing rocks together and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
this thing is an 18-gram drone, and that's the old model.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the new one they increased the rate by 30%.
Yeah, and it's got a laser on it, and it can like launch missiles. They've put a data logger in for Thomas's flying, so it flies better and faster. Probably.
I wonder what it'd be like in the window.
It struggles.
It's really impressive. Yeah. It has like sort of a ball of airspace that it holds in. Like when it holds, it's not like it's like still. It's like there's like an area, like maybe like
it's moving around,
and it sort of just stays in that general ball of space. So that's how, like, when I was flying it, I sort of just treated it like almost like I'm in like a 2-meter ball, or maybe like a 1.5 meter ball, and I would just be like pilot the big ball in the right direction, and then it'll sort of stay in that general spot, if that makes sense.
And the funny stories they've sort of shared with us are things along the lines of it crashing because it ran out of power, whatever, and they've got to go and find it. Now the problem you have is like when we're looking for our quads, it's not such a big deal, but this thing's tiny.
Yeah.
If you step on it, you've just crushed like freaking $30,000 worth of
No. Guess how much the thing actually cost? Because I've seen the
$70,000.
$60,000 a piece.
Oh wow!
30 of them. Apparently, a pile small enough that could fit in a soldier's helmet. Well, 1.4 million quid, US 1.8 million.
Wow.
To be fair, though, as soon as you sell something to the military, you do bump the price up. I'm sure I saw this video where the military are trying to launch this thing, and it was definitely a Skywalker. It just had camo painted on it, and thus it was like 50 grand, and he kept throwing it into the ground for some reason. He couldn't launch it.
Yes, I remember that one. I remember seeing that because that was hilarious.
Yeah. The Black Hornet, though, does have some crazy tech in it. That's just... I don't even know how they shrink it down to that size and make it work. So I think for them, all the development is in that super lightweight airframe, those beautiful balanced propellers that are like the tiniest, thinnest piece of carbon that you've like ever seen.
I think one person makes them, isn't it? There's one person that makes those.
Yeah, it's like only one person that can do it. Like they tried sourcing another company, and that company was like way less efficient. Yeah. So there's like one dude that can do it, and then all of the electronics is just it's super robust, the Link. Like, with the amount of things you can fly behind, and just the fact that it's so relentless, and the fact that it just always works. It's a really impressive platform. So, and even like the amount, like, we were hearing some of the stories of like some of the stuff they've done when they've been on tour with those, like the amount of soldiers and villages and stuff that's already saved, because you can like have them run perimeter searches, and then you have like a central dude that sort of, you know, manages them all, and then it'll like alert if it sees something like in its perimeter search. And they've done that before, where they've like had like an ambush getting set up around them, and they've been able to get everyone out without ever having a firefight. So, yeah, it's done really good work.
So it saved lives for sure.
Yeah.
And you can't see it and hear it because it's tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the most mind-boggling thing at that event, when the event was over and it was actually hovering so close to us, and I had no idea that it was there at all, and it was out in the open. Like I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, there were no bushes or anything. It was literally open land.
Yeah. So it was over clear sky, so you could actually see it if you looked up, but I didn't actually know it was there when I was having this conversation with some guys. And just a realization that if you were out in the bush or something like that and this thing was sort of doing patrols, you wouldn't even have any idea it was actually there. You wouldn't see it. You just wouldn't.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a shame some of the stuff. I'd love to play with a thermal camera, but to civilian people, they're highly well. Over in the UK, you're not allowed to get more than, what is it, about 5 frames a second or something. And your detector can't be too much of a high resolution, so you're really restricted on it. Because I was looking at that new I saw the videos about that new DJI quad, which they're doing as a sort of rescue platform, which looks astounding in the fact that you can have that sort of telephoto lens and it's stable enough that you can zoom right in and there's no wobble on it. I thought that was a really nice piece of tech they managed to put out there, and it was recording in thermal and everything else as well, and all the cameras going. Really nice.
Some of the stuff that I feel like DJI just always puts out bangers as far as cool drones go. Like, they just keep doing it. It's so impressive.
Got another one in 5 days' time, haven't we? Mini 3, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I feel like the Mavic, like from right when they released the Mavic as a response to Karma, like, they've just never stopped. They've just been relentless in their releases, and they're just getting better and better. So, it's impressive.
I just love the fact that the Karma fell out of the sky. You know, it was just like, and then had to get recalled. It's just like, what the? Like, you can't make this shit up.
Yeah, but that nearly broke GoPro, and I wouldn't like that to happen because I still use a lot of GoPros. So.
Same.
It must have been the best piece of marketing I'd ever seen, though, when basically DJI let GoPro go first, and they're like, look, we can fit this in our backpack, and then the DJI just strode out and took the Mavic out of the pocket, and then this is our new drone, just to demonstrate how ahead of the game they were, just within like a week of release.
Yeah.
There were some criticisms of the flight performance in the latest DJI. People saying the arms are getting a bit flexy and it's a little bit wobbly and can't really do wind. I don't think they've got it entirely sewn up. Maybe Skydio and others can get a foot in.
Skydio is very impressive.
There's some awesome. There's one I was watching. I think it was on iFondo's YouTube channel, and it was like one that was. The idea was you don't really control it. You just sort of tell it to take off, and it just follows you. And it's got like the most insane collision avoidance, where it's like able to like go around power lines and stuff. Well, it's not. They don't say it's meant to, but iFondo tested it, and it did. And it was just like the fact that the controls would literally just take off, and then it would just follow you and make up the shots as it goes. I thought that was just like, wait, we're really at that stage now where you can just have this level of automation even in a camera?
Yeah, I think the Skydio does that. Skydio 2. I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Guys riding through, mountain biking through trees, and it's following them and going over and under.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be the brand I was talking about. I don't actually remember the brand name, but yeah.
The Skydio big party trick is that really sophisticated obstacle avoidance where it can just go through an avenue of trees without dropping a beat, you know, and it'll track you like the trees aren't even there.
Yeah.
Just keeping out of their way.
That's actually amazing. Dude, that could be a fun game. Hide and seek. If you lose the lock, then you win.
Have you guys done anything with Mighty Car Mod yet? At least,
I'd love to. I'd love to one day. So I think they might be
get on it
big time.
Yeah.
One day.
Well, they're up north. They're in Sydney, so they're probably a good 8.5 hour drive from us.
8-hour drive from us, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully one day they need our.
Yeah. Well, they got to re-register that Subaru, so you know, I'm sure they'll make their way there.
I want to meet them one day and work with them. So they seem like a really fun group of guys, and I feel like I can't get over the production value now. It's getting so good. Their share.
Mate, they own a whole workshop now.
It's so good. It actually sort of just brings me so much joy of where they've like gone to, and just the quality of the projects and how they've just incrementally improved everything, and they've just. I can't believe how regularly they're uploading too. Like it's such an impressive job they're doing. I'm not sure is Moog still doing music full time?
I think so.
Is he still? Because that's mind blowing.
That's how they both met. They both do music.
Yeah.
So you know, because I uploaded some studio stuff. I'm still waiting for the Lily drone. What is that? Is that, oh God, Vernon shit?
One word. Micro drone.
Oh God.
Vernon's gone very quiet lately, hasn't he?
So someone messaged on that episode that they're still waiting. You know, it's like that ultimate backer guy. You know,
it's like we don't need. Backer. Was the whole shtick like we don't need sophisticated kind of flight control because we can fix it all with this amazing gimbal, which is using brush motors, and it's still going to be amazing because science, and it just never quite worked.
Yeah. I
Got
think we need
a few quid for that as well, didn't he? Backing wise.
I think we might need to go see Alan, and get a YouTube
the whole
video.
plan on that seemed to be like sell it down the supermarket, getting as many hands as possible. It sounded like they never quite made that work.
Yeah. I think they got it in 0 hands, as far as I can tell.
Well, there were a couple of revisions, weren't there? But they didn't really work by the sound of it. Was it just the latest one? He delivered something, hadn't he, with that micro drone concept, and he was going back for a V2 or a V3?
V4. This is.
All right.
This is V4, and there was much annoyance that he raised another $3 million or so, and has still not delivered anything to a lot of backers. Although I feel it's kind of the dead horse flogging as far as talking about Vernon and the microdrone and the lack of any drones from that one.
There were a lot of people who rode the first few years of Indiegogo and stuff like that, where people thought it was a marketplace instead of a betting shop.
People still believe in crowdfunding. Unfortunately, they see the video and they're like, "This is amazing. We've got to get behind this one." And despite of what a lot of people can say, I mean, some things it works. People producing get the budget together to do like video games and art projects and things like that. It can work. When you see electronics and it's like, this is a render of what we want to do.
What do we got here?
Harder.
What's a symbol on the front or something?
I knew this was going to come.
Yeah, my only crowdfunded thing that I've bought.
Oh, what is it?
It's David Winterstall's best
Kinetic
friend.
Driver. Yeah.
Oh.
So, mind you, the irony is I never work on computers.
No, don't say that out loud, Siri.
Because I never work on computers, I don't actually need this. But the idea is it's on a bearing, and like from the pressure of the weight, you literally just spin this, and like with momentum, it'll unscrew your computer screws. And
does it work on quads then?
No, not for quads, because our stuff's pretty rough. Sort of.
The whole marketing campaign for it was, this is something that you don't need. It's absolutely not necessary.
Yeah, it's the greatest
Thomas
one.
said,
shiny.
Yeah.
It's super
I do
smooth,
need
but
it. I
you definitely
do
not need this. And
Well,
all
no
these
serious
people
tool
purchase
comes in a combination of mirrored finishes like that, right? That's the
all
first giveaway.
engineers know. Here's the rule for engineers. Like, this is a tool. If I don't have it, then I must need it because I don't have it.
Yeah, I just thought it was the most beautiful thing ever. I think I unscrewed the back plate of a broken computer for fun. I was like, oh, this works perfectly. And then I put it away and I haven't touched it since. So
How much did you pay for it?
Oh, I don't remember. I bought one with a friend. We paid because it's like a friend and I, we just group bought it together. That way we come under the one shipping. So I don't actually remember what it was because it was years ago. Because you know how crowdfunding goes. Because you buy something and it'll never go to plan. It always is late.
I mean, at least you got something that looks nice at the end.
Yeah,
a lot of these electric screwdrivers.
This guy was pretty popular, and so I sort of trusted it was going to come through eventually. And
Well,
so
David Winchester was involved in that too, wasn't he? He's the one that recommended it, wasn't it?
I think he's friends with the guy. I don't think he actually worked on it. But
Yeah.
I was
If David built it, would have had a rocket on to give it some more torque.
Yes, naturally. Oh gosh.
Because they made the maker knife, you know, the little
I've seen it. It looks really
slide
cool.
out one.
Not for sale any longer. I tried to buy one of those. Looked awesome.
Yeah, so I know I got offered one. I said no, I'm all right, and I should have been like, yes, I will take one. The trouble is that I didn't know the legality of it around here because essentially it could have been considered a flick knife.
But you only need it at your bench, though, don't you? It's not like you're taking it to open sandwiches when you're out, is it?
Mate, I can't even recycle properly without the police detaining me. You know,
I was going to say that other electric screwdrivers have proven useless. I saw Pavel from iNav review the Wow Stick, which is supposed to be this all singing, all dancing electric screwdriver that looked beautiful and came with about 300 different bits. And the thing couldn't produce enough torque to undo an M3 screw, so it was just.
I've got a really good one. It was like it was given to me from someone in Korea. It was a proper Korean built little screwdriver, and that thing's been really good. I use that all the time. I'll go run down and grab that. But I was gonna say, Dad, did you want to share your electric screwdriver thing that you got? Because you bought one.
Yeah, that's pretty. But that's more for really tiny things like.
Yeah, that works well though.
It's good for taking apart GoPros and things like that, but you wouldn't use it for quads, and it just hasn't got enough torque, like you said. You know what I mean? So it's a real specialty tool, if that kind of makes sense. And it's tiny. The one I've got, I bought it through Amazon. But yeah, I only use it if I'm doing something really, really fine work. I've used it for GoPros and things along those lines. And Thomas has gone to get his little. Are you going to get your little tool? Go into the FPV room. So we've got a whole room dedicated for FPV.
FPV room, nice.
Oh my god!
I've got an FPV cupboard.
Yeah, we've got a whole room.
What do you mean? You got a wall, Tone?
What a wall?
Several walls.
So I use this TBS bits here.
No way! The iFixit.
That's cool.
And then the bolts are all a bit bent on this quad. This is my practice quad. It gets all the abuse, but yeah. This one's really good though. This one's really
earphone users, headphone users.
Sorry. Yes.
It's not that bad. I don't think.
That looks good.
Yeah.
I'd use that.
Is there not a make on it in case anyone does want to purchase it?
Oh.
So it tries to recreate.
I had
looks a lot chunkier than one Pavel was.
Hyber, made in Korea.
How do you spell that?
HYBRO.
HYBRO.
Yes. So this is amazing. It works flawlessly. I use it even for my motor bolts. I just use a bit of thread lock. That way it actually stays because the torque is probably a bit on the lower side compared to like if you did it by hand. But touch wood, I haven't.
But that's got enough
haven't
where you
dropped the
can
bolt
give
yet.
a little bit of a twist if you want at the end, just to get the tension just right.
I don't know how to use thread lock.
The old flick of the wrist.
Yes.
Yes.
I actually use that tool a lot when I've actually 3D printed stuff and I want to screw in M3 bolts into it because it holds it perfectly like You can hold it at right angles to what you're going into, and it just quickly winds it straight in. You get a nice thread on the plastic as it sort of taps into it. That's probably the only one that we use regularly. And it's actually really good if you're building multiple quads too.
Yeah, saves your wrist.
Yeah, speeds it up.
No worries. Right, I think that's all we've got time for. I've got a bit of a call to action. The massive shout out to Elle, who is Stephen's partner. Like, we now have a working website.
Ooh.
So if you go to letsdroneout.com,
we had a rather stuck website, and it's now working. We also found a plugin where we could put our t-shirt shop up there as well, so you can go and find your Let's Drone Out merchandise. And there's also been talk of maybe putting some other merchandise there. We know Jack's selling stickers, not available on the site yet, but we were wondering if anyone would be interested in Let's Drone Out LiPo straps. Standard strap size for a 5-inch with a metal buckle, rubberized strap, Velcro, all the usual premium stuff, probably made by RJX with a Let's Drone Out logo on it. So a nice solid strap. If you are interested, let us know and how many you would be interested in. Ping us on Discord or any one of the social media things that we're on, which you can also find out on letsdroneout.com, which lists all the social media channels that we have, should you be unsure as to where we are online. And yeah, let us know if you'd like a battery strap or even anything else that might be on your mind.
Yep. If you the other thing is we really need some ratings on our podcast. So if you can go to the Apple Podcasts website for Let's Drone Out, I posted a link in the chat, and if you give us a rating that's a bit better, because we've had a few back in the day that have marked us lower, so we're only 4.5 stars.
Let's Drone Out social media army, come on.
Yes.
Give us some love.
Give us some love. Bring us up to 5 stars. Leave a dick-sucking review.
Don't leave a dick-sucking review. That's going to send them up. Don't go down. Up.
Up. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. The glory hole that is Tony.
Oh dear.
Good luck editing that one, editor.
Isn't it?
Yeah, thank you guys for everything. Massive thank you to all our Patreons. We re-recorded the intro. We'll need to do a bonus podcast, so we will do that. But yeah, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And
you've
thanks, Paul and Tom, for getting up early.
Yeah. Thank you.
And let us know
this is actually a good practice for me because we're going to start traveling for racing soon. And waking up at 4 a.m. felt like
more racing videos coming from you guys as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we should have one this week actually.
Can you show what we're racing? What you raced?
Yeah, I raced this thing.
The dildo drone.
Bullet quad.
Yes.
Oh my word.
That does look crazy.
You broke it though, and you fixed it.
It's running.
2203.5 motor.
Yeah. It's 3D printed, right? How many races do you think it survived? Okay, we've got 1,
half.
2. Okay, what was the number? It was 2, wasn't it, Tom? Or 1.5? Wasn't it really?
Literally, you got like 2 laps of the second race.
It's got to be challenging to get that thing through a gate. Yeah. You can't really slow down with a design like that, right? Or it's just going to pitch over.
It's not too bad. I think the hard thing with it is you sort of get used to like the throttle being pretty sort of forgiving at the upper end, because obviously as the quad gets momentum and drag, you need a lot more throttle to go a little faster, right? Because this has like so much surface area front on. But then like as you tilt over, the actual surface area goes down, the drag gets reduced. It makes the throttle feel like really linear, like speed-wise. So the relationship
Weird.
between the throttle and speed is more proportional. But that means that because I'm so used to at the upper end, you can put these big throttle inputs in that does nothing. This is still really sensitive to throttle change.
Mm.
So you have to treat the throttle a lot more carefully. And especially when you cross over 45, it's almost like a switch flicks, and it feels almost like a turbo's kicking in. And so I found myself like almost like going up the throttle and then pulling off straight away, and going up to the throttle and taking it back again, just because I couldn't get used to sort of a position that I could hold.
Are you still running a sensible camera, or have you got like suicide camera? Because my thoughts were you probably had like a 90-degree camera, like it's looking straight out the front, but it's not
Still
quite,
45,
is it?
Yeah, because
Okay.
the field of views of these cameras now, they're so wide. So this is a 1.7mm lens there, and on the Foxys, it's like a 150 degrees field of view left to right, and then I don't remember what is in the vertical, maybe 120 or something. So it's like it's a lot. You can see a lot. So, and I think that's where even now, like with the bigger field of view goggles and that, it almost like balances out where you still have detail. So, yeah.
Yeah.
No
worries. Right, that is all we've got time for, unfortunately. But hopefully, we like you guys. If you want to come on, just ask, and we just email Cole, and he will give you a spot.
We will do that for sure.
If you're ever on the road,
it's awesome to be back.
You're always welcome. We love you guys. It's like we appreciate you getting up so early for us. Like,
likewise, we love being on anyway. Love to catch up. I hope we can get up to the UK and actually see you guys in person.
Awesome.
NJ sends his love, by the way. I messaged him personally, and I said, but he's in Denmark at the moment. So if there's any of you NJ stalkers, that's where he is. But yeah, so you've been listening to Let's Drone Out. You've been joined by everyone's favourite Curry Kitchen.
Good night.
Everyone's favourite Moustache Stephen.
Cheers. Bye.
My darling wife.
Bonjour.
Paul Bitmatta.
Thanks, guys. See.
And Thomas Bitmatta.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
And I've been Bright Until I Fly. Thank you, guys. Leave an iTunes review. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.